Good evening and welcome to episode 3 of the Digital Orthodontist Live. I'm your host, Dr. Kyle Fagala. It is Sunday night and it is a new year. I'm very excited to have one of the guests that I've definitely wanted on this show, someone who's very comfortable with being in front of a camera. This is Dr. Dovi Prero. He's from Beverly Hills. You probably know him pretty well if you're on Instagram. We're going to be talking about social media, of course. We're going to talk about how to work with influencers. We're going to talk a little bit about religion, okay, and a whole lot more. But first, we need to play our theme song. All right, so welcome to the show. I want to first thank a couple people before we get on into this. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the stream to my right here so I can follow along and see my face. I want to thank Glenn Krieger, actually. I want to start with Glenn as a thank you. He actually had planned to interview Dovi. I think he'd actually already recorded the thing and decided to let me go ahead and have kind of first crack at it. There's a lot more backstory than that, but Glenn knows what I'm talking about, and Glenn, thank you. I want to do a plug for his podcast. Of course, we got Lance with his amazing podcast, Elevate Orthodontics Podcast. Glenn now has his podcast. It's the Orthopreneurs Podcast. I hope to be on it sometime soon. He does a wonderful job with that. You can find that on Apple Podcasts. Of course, you can find this on Apple Podcasts as well. We have a video podcast. You can watch it there. You can watch it later. And I actually want to do something to incentivize you going and subscribing. And if you feel like I've ever provided value to you, giving me a 5-star review. And so that will be some AirPods. So the things that we wear so that you can hear us and we can hear each other as we do this. We're going to give some of those away. So if you don't have any AirPods, these are amazing. If you do have some AirPods, make it a giveaway in your office or something like that. But all you have to do, okay, is one of two things. I want to grow the audience inside this group. And so as you're sitting there, as you're watching this, why don't you go ahead and invite 2 doctors, 2 team members, whatever. You'll get an entry in to win this. Just comment on this video. Let me know that you did it. Or, and maybe even in addition to, you can get an entry to win these by going and liking and subscribing and giving a review on our podcast and Apple Podcasts. I'll drop the link later to that. Okay, so there's some incentives for you there if you want to win some AirPods. Thank you, Jason Kaplan. Anything for you. Jason, I got to see him recently. What an awesome guy. He was just at Disney. Thank you for live streaming from my favorite ride, Splash Mountain. That was great. Okay, so I want to do a little opening segment before I bring Dovi on here. Of course, it is the new year. All right, 2018 is gone. Hopefully you're not still writing that on everything. When you have to write the date, you're still scribbling out 2018. It is 2019, and I think a mainstay of every new year is resolutions. And so you may be someone who your resolution is to not make a resolution, and I get that. I think I read a blog recently about how goals actually limit us from accomplishing more, and I think I get that point too. For me, I'm a very task-oriented, goal-oriented person, and my experience has been that setting goals means that I accomplish more. I think we're good, at least I'm good, at setting business goals, professional goals. And so we set, how many starts we want to hit or what our production goal is. And we tend to hit those goals or, I'll hit my Invisalign goals or whatever. But on the personal side, I don't know that I've always been that great, which is a real shame because in the end of all this, we work not just for the work. We work to take care of our families and to fulfill ourselves personally, and those are the things that we should be setting goals for, I think. I've uploaded this to the group already, but I do want to put a plug in for it. It doesn't really benefit me any. This is not something super duper unique, but what I would say is I think this is something I'd really encourage you to do. A good friend of mine, a cardiologist, Dr. David Flatt, came up with this. The categories all start with F because his last name starts with F. It so happens that mine does too, but you can adapt it or keep it as Fs. But it is a personal goals sheet, sort of a matrix of sorts. And so there's 7 categories. They're prioritized from, at least for me, what's most important down the list to what's least important. And I think this is an excellent way to ensure that you're taking care of some things throughout your year that might otherwise go undone. In terms of making goals, 2 things I would say. I think it allows you to raise your standards. Dave Ramsey says this, that change is painful. Few people have the courage to seek out change. Most people won't change until the pain of where they are exceeds the pain of change. I think we know those kind of people. It's often true of my team members. When we have something new, the idea of change is not something they're excited about. And I think that's also, when you're the one making the decisions, it's easy, right? But I do think a lot of us are scared to change too much. But if you sit down for a few hours, if you kind of meditate or pray on what it is that you want to do in this new year, and you make those goals and then you revisit those goals throughout the year, you'll accomplish a ton. So why set goals? I think it allows you to decide where you're going and who you're going to be. A goal without a plan is just a wish, so you need to be strategic about it. You need to make a plan for it. Tony Robbins says that setting goals is the first step in turning the invisible into the visible. So hopefully if you're a goals person, you're on board with this now. So let me quickly give you the best way to do goals, and I think it's to do what's called SMART goal setting. And so SMART is an acronym, and hopefully this is helpful to you. For goals to work, it can't be something like, well, I want to get fit in the new year. I think those are mostly people's resolutions. Things like that, they're not measurable, they're not specific. How would you even know that you got fit? What does that even mean? And so the first thing is that goals need to be specific. Michael Hyatt says your goals must identify exactly what you want to accomplish in as much specificity as you can muster. They need to be measurable. You can't manage what you can't measure, Peter Drucker says. They need to be actionable. Tony Robbins says, remember, a real decision is measured by the fact that you've taken new action. If there's no action, you haven't truly decided. And so it needs to be something, too, that you can come back and you can measure and you can decide if you have or have not taken action. And so I check back in daily. My goals sit on my mirror in my bathroom. I look at them every day. And then each quarter I go and I measure how I've done. Have I completed this action? And if so, I check it off. But it reminds me of it. The last two are the goals should be realistic and time-bound. So in short, you should make goals that are going to be achieved. You want to make a goal that you're never going to be able to achieve, and it needs to be bound by time. So something like, well, I seek to lose 10 pounds next year by working out, and I'm going to do it by the month of June. Something like that. And so you can measure yourself. You can even split it down. Well, I need to lose 2 pounds a month until that time, and that'll get me my 10 pounds off. Just some quick ideas. Again, that's uploaded in the group, the goal setting matrix. I'm sure you have some other ideas that you use that work for you, but hopefully that's something I can encourage you to do and make 2019 the best year that you've ever had. Okay, so it is time, which you've been waiting for, is to bring on Dr. Dovi Prero. So we're going to see if our technology works for us. You never know, but let's see. We're going to we all love. He has a request for Dovi, and that request was to ask him about what hair care products he uses. He says, I need to know his secrets. So Jonathan, I'm going to share a little bit of that secret, and as soon as Dovi gets on in here, we're going to have him actually work on his hair. And so his secret is this. This is what he uses, okay? This is hairspray. It is Tresemme. There he is. Look at him. Is that you? Look at that guy. Is that weird? We just did an
That's awesome.
Adobe inception there. Hello, Dovi. Hello. Thank you for coming on.
Hi, Kyle. How's it going?
It's going awesome, man. So, you know, we talked about this in like the little pre-show where we're chatting it up, and we decided that as I read your bio, for Jonathan Nicasisa's sake, you will show us how you do your hair and how quickly you're able to do your hair as I read your bio. And so, again, I gave it away. It's Tresemme 4. It's a hairspray. That's got some strength in it. 4 out of 5.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a extra hold.
Extra hold. Okay.
All day humidity resistance.
Very nice. I love it. I use a hair wax, but no one ever asks me. So that's how I know that your hair is nicer than mine. No one's once asked me, what do you do with your hair? But anyway, your hair is wonderful. So why don't you go ahead and get started on that as I read your bio, and we'll see if you can finish by the time I finish your bio. All right. So Dr. Dovi Prero is a board-certified orthodontist in Beverly Hills, California. He is one of 11 children. That's crazy. I did not know that. All of whom saw the same orthodontist in Chicago, Illinois. That is great for that orthodontist, I'm sure. He attended Towson University in Baltimore, Maryland. He received a master's degree in education from Loyola University. Nailed that, right? I didn't know that you had a master's in education. That's wild. We'll talk about that here in a second. He then attended dental at UCLA and then ortho at USC, and he got a master's in craniofacial biology. He lives in LA with his wife, Naomi, and his children, Eliana, Alexandra, and I'm sure everyone knows David. Dr. Dovi Prero, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kyle, for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, look at that, man. You look sharp. Look at that. That's like, what, 50 seconds? You're doing the tie, too.
I think so.
All right, I gotta show off this. This is special. Anna got this.
Oh, man. That's for the Walk of Fame?
Yeah, someday, Dovi.
I love that. Someday.
One day. I'm going to mail this to you after the show for being on the show, so thank you for doing that.
So kind. We're going to do a single Windsor.
Single Windsor, okay.
To the left.
So I'm going to divulge something that's extremely embarrassing. I don't know if I should.
Do it.
I don't really know how to tie a tie.
All right, I'll tie it for you.
Yeah, you got
next time we see each other.
I like never tie them, so I'm still like I'm a junior high. Like for basketball games, we had to wear a tie to the basketball game. I don't know if anyone had to do that, but
yeah,
I would leave it tied. So all my ties were like this, disgusting.
Like
knotted
the zip
up.
up, maybe the zip up. I have David has one of those.
Yeah, I had real ties. My son has a zip up tie, but no, I left them tied. They're probably still tied in my mom's closet somewhere, like at her house. So, Dovi. So Dovi and I go back a little bit, I guess. I did want to show. This is recently you were posting this. This is your billboard. Look at that.
That's right.
Look at that. So this was actually one of the first things that Neon Canvas did was design your billboard. We worked together a little bit. And then I remember meeting Dovi shortly thereafter, I think, or maybe whatever. But at the AAO, I was on your Instagram kind of right before it really got huge, I think. But
maybe it got huge because you were on it.
Yeah, the Fagala bump. I don't think that's what that was. But man, good looking billboard. How much do people talk to you about that? Do you think you get a lot of patients from that, or?
We did. We got a good ROI the first time around we did it, and that was on that same billboard that we did it. That's still up now. So it comes up whenever I use a billboard broker that gets me basically a remnant. So if the studio doesn't want it, and then he'll call me up, 3 days before and say, hey, you know what? It's become available. Usually at a discounted rate because it's short-term notice. And for me, it doesn't necessarily, I don't really need this certain time of year. So whenever it's cheap enough for us, we'll give it a shot. And he's actually a dad of one of my patients, so that kind of helps him out. And it's been good for us. The first time we got 5 new patients from that billboard.
Nice. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Where I'm at, you can't have billboards. Like they're very strict, like even like famously strict in Germantown, Tennessee on signage.
Oh, wow.
And so anytime I hear people talk about signs and how it's the greatest ROI they've had and et cetera, we have a sign on our door. That's it. That's all we get. So
do they come and they measure like the size of the letters like the dental board used to?
Yeah, everything's sort of like that. So I guess it sort of makes the playing field level, but I'd love the opportunity to have billboards and things. And you look great on it, Dove. So can I call you Dove? I won't.
That's right.
All right. So I'm gonna jump in with a couple like little bio questions, a little background on you, because I think certainly as someone that watches you on Instagram, there's some things, I feel like I know about you. I think we won't talk about that, but that's something weird about social media is you feel like you know people from watching them. I'm sure you have people approach you that, act like that you've known each other for years in some way that they've known you, but of course you've not. But I want to get to know you a little bit more. So kind of give me the quick spiel. When did you start your practice? Tell me a little bit about your practice and all that kind of good stuff.
Okay, so I graduated UCLA Dental School in 2011. 2014, I went to USC, Crosstown. When I graduated, I was hired by my faculty, Dr. Harry Doherty in Sherman Oaks. I worked there on Tuesdays. And then I was working for a specialty practice, a group multi-specialty practice, about 6 days a month. So that was like 10 days in total for Dr. Doherty, 6 around the city. And then after that, I started renting space from a periodontist on Fridays. And then after Fridays, that first year, I switched to another periodontist down the block where I just needed some more space to grow into. And I was completely renting from them before. And then I wanted enough space, even I didn't even have enough space to have like my own staff there at the front desk. And so we rented a new space that allowed me to have 2 chairs there. And we've been there. That was in November of 2015. We did that. And then I was in the new space that we were at, that new periodontist for about 3 years in total. And then after that, most recently we purchased Dr. Mario Paz's practice, who's literally across the street from me. So overnight, we moved all of our stuff into his office, and now we're in a solo ortho office. When I was in the sublease, I also had purchased another practice of another doctor, Dr. Manny Wasserman, and I brought him into the sublease. And then we actually moved all of us together to the new space in November. So November's been a great month for us.
Yeah, it sounds like it. That's a lot of back and forth. It is true. I think that like in Memphis, that's not typically the trajectory for someone. They usually kind of do something and then that's where they stay. LA is a whole nother beast. And, I think to anyone that's trying to find a job in LA, it's tough. So congrats on figuring that out. And it's in pretty quick turn, I would say, for a market like that. You're doing well, it seems. So congrats. Tell me about your family. Obviously, your family is a big part of your Instagram, just as they are as a part of mine. and not like it's some strategy. At least for me, it's just that's what's around. It's entertaining, so they make it onto the show. It seems like David more than your daughters, but tell me about your family and tell me about maybe how they feel about Instagram and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. So I'm married to my wife Naomi of 13 years. We just celebrated our 13th anniversary in December. She's the reason why I'm out here in LA, because she was born and grew up in LA, Beverly Hills. And so we moved out here, and that's why I started all my training here. We have 3 children. Eliana is 12. We just celebrated her bat mitzvah. And then Alexandra is 9 and David is 5. Now the girls, they're actually old enough where they're like over this Instagram thing, and they're on social media. They take a smaller role because that's their preference. And I completely respect that. And then David, he's got no choice. If he wants to be on the marketing budget, if he wants his paycheck, he's got to show up. Actually, last night we were driving by the billboard. He was like, "Daddy, I want my picture to be on it."
Ooh, yeah.
So next billboard. If you ask, you shall receive. We'll think of something cute.
I think there's a good idea working there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I noticed one thing. I had Cole Johnson on here at episode 1. We were in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And he has his nonprofit that he and Daisha have done together. Yeah. I've seen a few things about you and Naomi it's a similar kind of thing, which is ironic is probably the wrong word, but a coincidence maybe on infertility. And I misquoted it with Cole, but it's 10 to 12% of women struggle with infertility. So I have that right. But a lot. And in terms of how many are affected, I'm sure it's much more than that. But tell me a little bit about what you guys do and what you've done to raise some money there.
So it's a good point you mentioned. So we are involved in an organization called Bonei Olam, and it helps fund people who are going through infertility. So essentially, if they're having some kind of infertility and they can't afford treatment, then it funds them partially or completely, and also gives social support for them. The reason why we're passionate about it is because we felt we were blessed with a child right away, as planned. And so, we're married for 13 years. Eliana is 12. So she was born before our first anniversary. And actually her first middle name is a contraction of 2 words. Eli means my God, and Ana means answered. So we felt like, he answered our prayers right away. And some people go through different paths to experience that. So we felt if there was a way that we could give thanks, in a sense, is by helping other people. So we were honored at their most recent dinner a year and a half ago, and we actually raised $1 million towards this organization to help people do it. So we're very passionate about it, and I think it's a great way to help other people experience the same joy that I do.
Sure. Yeah, I think I talk about legacy in some of the lectures I do, and like, who am I to talk about legacy? I'm 34, but I think it's important. If I figured out anything, I think it's to invest time in things that are going to matter in 5-10 years, and not things that won't matter in 5 to 10 minutes. And certainly that is one of those. So much respect to you and to Naomi for doing that. All right, I want to shift gears just a little bit. Obviously, you're a technology guy. Okay, he already had a pair of AirPods, people. But this was from a few days ago. I have a patient who is trying to make it in Hollywood. So the little girl to your right and left in the picture there, she's doing commercials and movies and things like that. So she started phase 1 with me. Her sister started Invisalign, and they thought, well, we'll probably be back, but things have gone well, so they've actually stayed. And so who did I call but Dovi? And so it was pretty cool because, you texted me, you're like, hey, get on FaceTime. I was like, okay. I'm actually wearing a Christmas sweater in this photo. It was Christmas sweater day. Yeah. But it was awesome. I mean, there's really it's hard to put into words a connection that's possible when you actually put people together on a phone like that. So do you do that pretty often? I mean, do you find that that's effective for you?
Video is like, photo is dead, video is everything. So we're trying to, through Instagram story, of course, it's mostly video. And then even on our feed, we're trying to do mostly videos, a lot of the D-band videos that we're doing now. Yeah. But, that mom came in and she had mentioned, and you don't even have to say anything, right? She came in and you're like, okay, go see Dovi, and whatever you told her, she might be under the impression maybe they didn't tell them the whole story, or we don't know what the transfer situation is. And if I go in walking, we kind of have a thing about it in our office, but I walked in on FaceTime with you. It kind of sets mom at ease. And we were rolling from the get-go, which we probably would have. She was a wonderful mom and seemed really comfortable at the office. But that kind of thing does really strike a chord. And so we're doing videos, we're doing follow-up videos for moms that don't come to the appointments. If the nanny comes or they just drop them off downstairs, we're in a medical building. So we're like on the 7th floor. They come to sometimes they don't want to pay for parking. So they'll drop them off. They'll come upstairs. I'll send them a quick video. And then it's even more efficient. They don't have to worry about them coming back to the treatment area. And, we don't necessarily share this stuff online. And some moms are very sensitive to that, and I'm always sensitive to that. But if the video or the picture is taken, then someone can look at it. And so either it's mom for herself, or sometimes I'll send it to her and we'll follow up with a request to post it, and sometimes not.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's awesome. So I've done it a little bit. It's like any good idea. You're like, oh, I should do that all the time, and I kind of do it here and there. When it happens and when I do it, you can just tell that people are so receptive to it. So what I do, and I think it may have been based on your recommendation or someone else, is to use their phone. It just makes it a little bit easier. Like if mom's not there, it kind of disengages. Exactly. And it makes it easier, and they can just send it straight to them. So fun times. I did, though, catch one time a mom. She was not there. The nanny was there, and mom was at a business meeting or something. And I was like, well, let's see if we can FaceTime. And she was driving back. She was driving back from Sonic. She had a Route 44 in her hand, and I think she was embarrassed that she had skipped out on the appointment so she'd go to Sonic because it was happy hour. But anyway.
Love that.
Yeah. Do y'all have Sonic in LA? Is that like a dead reference? Do you Sonic? No?
No, okay. We have it. The burger place, right? Okay.
Yeah. It's like a old, car hop thing. Great ice.
Yeah, but they have alcoholic drinks there or no? You said she was happy hour.
Oh, well, not that kind of happy hour. No, that would be something.
Not that happy.
Stuff. Yeah, no, exactly. This is just like a cherry limeade. Now she may have added some alcohol. We don't know. Yeah, you'll never know. Let's move on. All right, I do want to get. Maybe she did. Who knows? Maybe that's why she wasn't at the appointment. Let's move into Instagram. I think this is, people associate you with Instagram, rightfully so.
Yes.
I don't think there's any competition, and you don't have to respond to this, but you're doing Instagram as well as anyone in orthodontics. I think maybe you and Grant Collins are killing it. I think Stuart Frost does a pretty exceptional job with his too. Yeah. And there's others. I shouldn't have gotten into listing names, but you're sort of the first to do this, kind of everyday, like the guy you were inspired by, the Dr. Miami, like the guy that was on Snapchat. You kind of been inspired by that, and you just kill it. You've stuck with it. I have tried. Thank you. I've entered into that realm, and I've tried to do it, and it's hard for me to want to do it. That's a whole nother conversation. But I want to hear 3 ways that it's actually growing your practice. The most common critique I get of social media is that, well, what's it doing to grow my practice? And I don't want to do it anyway.
Right.
But what has it done to actually grow your practice?
Okay, so number one, we get organic leads directly from Instagram, not paid posts, not advertising, not ads. We get people that are coming directly from Instagram. And very often they're coming with saying that I've gotten because Dr. Prero explains things so well, that's why they end up coming and choosing us, or at least coming in for a consultation. Now, I'll say in general that patients who come from Instagram will be a lower quality lead, if you call it, just because by nature, they don't have an association, they don't have a referral. It's not like the mom next door, and they might be traveling from further away, so they want to come see what the magic is about, but they may not end up starting with us. So it's a little bit lower quality, but number one, I would say we get organic, just leads directly from Instagram. And that's both from showing our before and afters and from the story where I get a chance to explain things more. Number two, which I'm really passionate about, is the fact that we get through Instagram, we get to educate the public. So I think that itself, even if it doesn't help my practice, it gets the word out there. And then people will, we get questions from all over the place, all over the country, all over the world about orthodontics in general. And I'm always shifting them, see an orthodontist. And I've even made some referrals. I think Jacob Koch got a whole family from me. We sent him over there from Atlanta. And it's been really wonderful to do that and to educate them, especially with all the DIY stuff that's going on. And then I think also that it cultivates relationships both with existing patients. It cultivates relationships with prospective patients, and then also referring doctors and their staff. So if they're watching it, I went one day to introduce myself to a pediatric dentist, and I said, hi, I'm Dovi Prero. I'm an orthodontist in the neighborhood. Want to welcome you to the office. She's like, I know you, Dr. Prero. I follow you every day. So it very often it greases the wheels, and it can continue our conversation going better than any newsletter, sometimes better than in a muffin run. But if you're doing both of those, it really gets a way to cultivate relationships, and they'll DM and ask questions about it, and the referring doctors see it. So I think it's direct to the patient, to the public in general, and then to your existing patient clientele and referring doctors and staff.
Yeah, it's a great answer. It's funny. I give basically the same answer in a lecture as to why you do it. There's a lot of reasons why you would do it. There's some reasons why you wouldn't do it. It does take time. It's a distraction. And so I would say to someone who's just absolutely killing it, that doesn't want to do it, well, don't. Like, I don't think there's any reason to like force it. You don't have to do it. And I think the worst thing that you could do, I say it's like running for political office. If you're going to run for office, kiss every baby, take out every sign, do every commercial, do whatever you got to do to win. Don't just do it halfway. So if you're going to do social media halfway, I just wouldn't do it. Aaron Laird on here, he's asked the question of, what are your recommendations to begin incorporating social media into your practice? Let's kind of focus it on Instagram. I think there's a lot of initial things. I think one of the first things I would say is in your new patient paperwork, there needs to be a photo release. And if someone doesn't want their photo or the video out there, their likeness out there, then you mark it in your practice management system. It turns out, though, that typically the people that don't want to be on social media are not the ones that you would really focus on anyway. And it seems increasingly that people want to be a part of it. And I would say, and you probably would say the same, once they know what your practice is about, they're drawn to you for that reason. So they're a fun kind of person. They want to be on it anyway. It's kind of like they're waiting for you to ask and that sort of thing. But what would you say to someone who's considering Instagram? Does it work for everyone? Do you think it's well spent time and so on and so forth? Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned about even doctors who have successful practices already. I think it can really humanize people, but in addition, showing your before and afters, if we get clinical and get really detailed, that is a great way to grow the practice. So I know even Dr. Frost, you mentioned him before, he's a very successful orthodontist who does beautiful, phenomenal treatment. After we had done a few interactions on Instagram, and I made a few suggestions to him, he started putting his clinical cases out there, and he told me that he got direct referrals from the before and afters that he showed. So I would say, number one, don't worry about like having your own show and doing an Instagram story every day. Number one, I would say, is stick to the clinical, which is something that you may not get from other social media marketing agencies. And like you said before, you got to do it yourself. You have to, or someone in the office. You don't want to necessarily, outsource it to a company unless they understand that concept. So number one, before and afters, just put them up there. Cherry pick them. Take the best ones that you have, but go ahead and do it, and then explain it, and then you will get the conversation started. And then under your story, go ahead and discuss in detail. I always tell people the way you want to consider your audience the level of a first-year dental student, meaning they know nothing. And so if you're talking about class 1, if you're talking about occlusion, a bite correction, then get into the details. This is what Instagram is. That's why people are following plastic surgeons like Dr. Miami. That's why they're following, like woodworking and metallurgy and all this kind of stuff. People want to know the details. It's like that YouTube age where people are enthralled with learning. And if you can explain something, then you become an authority on it. So I think it's a great way to, before and afters, to educate about cases, even on a detailed level, and then even consider, throwing up your reviews onto Instagram. It's a great way for your existing patients and prospective patients and your referring doctors who are following you to see what people are saying about your practice. And, screenshotting a Yelp review and then putting it out there. We do a lot of that. And that way you get exposure even more from just from the page itself.
Sure. Yeah, it's great. So much more that I could say on this topic. This is what you and I both speak about. I would say this to your point about, do you do it yourself? Do you not? I don't have an exact answer for that. What I do know is that completely outsourcing it is a bad idea. That's like having someone else tell your own story for you. It's not going to work. Yeah. For me, I would say social media, especially as you get busier in a practice, it has to be scalable to some degree. Yes. And so it's a team effort. So my team consists of my second receptionist. I have someone who works for me 10 hours a week to kind of help, edit, caption, post photos. She's a good writer. I use Neon Canvas for graphic design and things like that. Yes. And for ideas on social media prompts and things like that. And that's more Facebook, I guess you could say. On the Instagram side, it's just me and it's just in my head. And I could not do every day. I'll be honest, I get like a certain anxiety before I do something. So even like this, like I'm like anxious before it. It's like playing like a basketball game or something. You're anxious and then you get into it. The adrenaline carries you through it. And so I love once I'm on the camera, it's fun. But like to do it every day for me would be tough. I think you have a different personality that allows you to do that. So what I would say to people is what you said is you're comfortable talking about clinical. You're already an expert about clinical. So start there, kind of cut your teeth. And you also you have to start somewhere. You're going to be terrible at it at first. And you'll get better with time. For me, what I've done is created like little things in life that I know I'm going to do. Like I'm going to go to movies with my son and I like to talk about movies. And so like, we'll do that, or I'm going to go eat lunch and I'm going to talk about that. Things I'm already like interested in, things I feel like I'm an expert on. And it also like forces me to do it. Like we go to the movies now and Charlie's like, are we going to do our movie review? We're going to do a movie review. Even I don't really want to. I think for you though, that's doing it every day. It's like, well, I'm doing it today. You know, I've got to do it. So.
You know, I think it's wonderful. Like when the kids ask for it, then absolutely. And sometimes, you know what, we do a daily story, and sometimes, you know, I don't try to force anything. Like Gary Vee says, document. Don't try to create the content. Just document the content. But I think, you know what, even me, like I got some of that anxiety, like in the beginning when I was first starting my Facebook page, maybe 3 years ago. I was like, well, should I do it? You know, I want to wait till I have like a whole catalog of posts that I want to get done. And it was holding me back. And so another line that Gary Vee says, and that I think is really can resonate with someone who hasn't done it before, is 1 is greater than 0. 1 is greater than nothing. So you just got to start. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it my way. And it probably means that you shouldn't do it my way exactly. But you should just start. And if it's like before and after is education, if you don't want the camera on you, then put the camera straight on the model, straight on the 3D stuff. I think there's a lot that patients will that'll resonate with.
Yeah, and the other thing I'll say as we wrap this little mini segment is you can always stop doing it. It's not like you're forced to do it. That's the thing about social media.
Exactly.
It's not like, you know, it's like, people will forget it and it's 24 hours and it's gone. So who cares?
Exactly.
Or you can just delete it if you're really embarrassed. All right. So we're going to play a game tonight. We're only going to play one official game and then another thing we'll do here in a second. This game is going to be called When I'm 64. I'm a big Beatles fan. So anytime I get to reference a Beatles song, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a popular orthodontic appliance or technique. And I want you to tell me, this is easy, is it younger or older than 64 years? Okay.
Okay.
Then as a quick follow-up, and don't spend too much time worrying about it, but I'm going to give you bonus points if you can guess within 5 years the year it was introduced. And I want people to play along as well. So I want to see, is it older? Is it younger? Here is our theme song. If you know the Beatles. Yeah. This will probably get pulled off Apple Podcasts because I use the Beatles song.
Are you a DJ secretly, Kyle? Yeah.
Do I look like a DJ?
Yeah, DJ Kyle. I think it looks good.
No,
DJ K.
DJ K-Fag. No, I love music, and I absolutely love the Beatles. So if anybody ever sees me at a meeting and you want to talk about the Beatles, bring it on. All right, so When I'm 64, we're going to start with one that you definitely know. It's the Herbst appliance. Is it younger or older than 64 years?
Oh, the truth is I don't know, but I'm going to say like it's Dr. Herbst. Probably older than 64 years.
What do people think? Is the Herbst appliance older or younger than 64 years? Let's get some answers in here.
Probably.
Melissa Venrick says older. Let's get a couple more. Anybody else out there? You know, there's a little delay between
Dr. Panchers. Yeah, Dr. Panchers. He's an older guy. I know he's done the research on it.
All right. Mary Dunn says older. Okay, it's older. Actually, the Herbst appliance is 110 years old this year.
No way.
Yeah. So the Herbst appliance was developed in 1909 by German orthodontics Emil Herbst. It was reintroduced by Panchers in the mid-70s.
See, Panchers.
Yeah, so I've actually seen Dr. Panchers speak at the AAO. And then Dr. Herbst, interestingly, he also introduced the rapid palatal expander. So that guy was killing it back in the early 1900s. Yeah. Ryan Hurley says it's older than Kyle. Ryan, that's not very funny. Everyone said, Amar Almadi said younger. So one person. All right, cool. All right, so the next one. Is this younger or older than 64? Self-ligating brackets.
That's younger.
All right, self-ligating brackets. Are they younger or are they older than 64? Let's see. All right, people.
I think so. Dr. Damon. I mean, Dr. Damon's older than 64, but let's say he's like 80, so he probably did it when he was 30. Probably 50, maybe 50, 40 years.
What's real funny about this is just information that I pulled off the internet, so I could very well be wrong. This could be fake news. I'm seeing a lot of younger, mostly younger, some older. Well, would you believe it? The self-ligating bracket is actually 85 years old. So you got that one wrong. The first patent for self-ligating brackets was filed by Charles Boyd in 1933. William Ford in 1951 introduced another self-ligating bracket. It was called Johnson twin wire technique. That was what it was used for. Of course, Damon came much later. But all right, so you're 1 for 1. All right, the next one, is this younger or older than? Yeah, you're 1 for 2. Well, sorry.
Or
you're
1 and 1 in my sense.
1 and 1? Yeah, it depends on the sport. All right, so interproximal reduction. Is interproximal reduction younger or older than 64?
John Sheridan. It used to be called PIS, but then they changed it. Posterior interproximal stripping. John Sheridan, probably younger. Although they may have been doing it for longer than that, but I think what we know colloquially, I would say it's younger.
Never try and say the word colloquially. That's a tough one. Don't use that word.
Not when you're around, you know.
Not when you're on live
friends.
television. This is not really television. I don't know what to call this. It's not TV. All right, so IPR, we're seeing mostly older on the answers. Actually, all older. Interesting. Okay. It actually is older, and believe it or not, it is 116 years old as a concept.
Okay.
And so the natural interproximal abrasion of teeth, it was discussed by none other than the father of modern dentistry, G.V. Black, in 1902.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And of course, what you're getting at, Dr. Sheridan, early 80s. And so you understand, I wouldn't have known these necessarily. I just Googled them for this game. But he reintroduced it
and
as
I didn't
ARS.
Google it. That was from.
No, it was good. This is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had that in your mind. So air rotor stripping, Dr. Sheridan in the 80s. But IPR has been around for a long time as a concept. Lots of guys and gals have talked about it. So, all right, here's another one. So you're 1 for 3, which is good in baseball. That's not bad. Vacuum formed retainers. Is that younger or older than 64?
I'm sure. Well, now if you're like including all this like old stuff, then it's got to be older. Yeah, I'm gonna say older.
Well, no, don't overthink it. But all right, I like Sandy Marshall said Excellident, older or younger.
What's hashtag? What's Excellident?
Yeah, it depends on what you want to categorize it as, I guess. Vacuum form retainers, younger or older? Man, Mary Dunn is on. She's on point here. She says older. Vacuum form, so like an Essex retainer. What do we think, people? All right, so vacuum form retainers, they are actually younger than 64. Did you miss that one too? You can't win.
I think I did miss that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were 1 for 4. I'm sorry, buddy.
I'm betting 250.
It was actually introduced by Sheridan in 1993. Okay. All right. Here's one: younger or older than 64 Holly retainers. So another type of retainer.
Older. I think they have it from back in the day.
Yeah. Okay.
Dr. Holly.
So you think older?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go. This one's an easy one. This is older. All right. So 1919, Holly introduced his retainer. So
wow,
all right,
100 years to the year.
Yeah, 99 to 100 years old this year. Yeah, this is crazy, right? All right, last one on when I'm 64. Is this younger or older than 64 years old? The digital scanner. Because you do a lot of talking about digital scanning. The digital scanner.
I'm going to say it's younger than 64 years.
Okay. The digital scanner. What do other people think? All right, digital scanner.
Unless you're going to come up with like some funny iteration of it.
I feel like you figured out by now that I'm sort of tricky with these. Okay. All right, so digital scanner is actually younger. So you did get this right. Oh, I love this family cup. Look at that. It's 60,
I got that for my wife's birthday.
There you go. 61 years old, the digital scanner. Now, this is a little bit of a tricky one, but it's still not older. You still got it right, okay? But the first image scanner was built in 1957 by Russell Kirsch. And so the resolution of it is black and white, and it was 176 pixels on a side. So he scanned like a little photograph of his 3-month-old son. I don't know where that was. I think actually in Washington, D.C. It was a national thing. But the first intraoral scanner was probably the early 80s, the CEREC 1. Okay, so what do you think about that game?
I loved it.
Yeah, not bad. All right, so that was when I'm 64. Let's move on. You did a good job. I think that was tough. There were some tough ones there. It seemed like the people out there were pretty good at it, and everyone loves.
Yeah, you have an
Sheridan.
educated audience. It's all about educating your audience.
Andy Sarpadar, I probably shouldn't repeat this online, but he said that that old scanner is still better than the Lithos. Okay, I'll let that be on Andy. That's kind of
he doesn't comment too much these days.
All right, we'll move on.
Andy was my big brother in dental school.
All right, Andy. Really?
Yeah.
No way. I did not know that.
Well,
there we go. Making connections.
Absolutely.
Making connections. All right. So let me ask you this. So along the lines of 64, we will grow old one day. Do you ever see yourself stopping Instagram? Do you ever get tired of it? What are your plans there?
I don't know what it's going to turn into. From Facebook was more popular, and then Facebook is still great, but Instagram has kind of taken over, and Snapchat has fallen mostly to the wayside for the stuff that we do. I wonder what it'll be, and I wonder if I'll be some some old inexperienced doctor with a different modality. Maybe it'll be VR, or maybe it'll be something else that I'll be totally clueless about. But I don't see myself slowing down from Instagram anytime soon. As long as patients are coming in from it, and it's a great way to educate everybody, we're gonna keep on with the pedal on the metal there, pedal to the metal.
Yeah. What about as your practice grows? Do you feel like will it slow you? I mean, how do you know? But
yeah.
What are your thoughts as you do get busier?
I mean, even now, like, I'm posting a little bit less on my story, so the story will change. I may not get as much time. At some point, I'll probably outsource it. And even now, very often I will schedule, like, if I know that we're doing Instagram, more Instagram heavy procedures, we'll schedule them right before lunch when the clinic kind of dies down, or at the end of the day, when I can extend past and not worry about, being in an open bay and looking kind of silly with the camera out. But we just basically feel off of our patients if they're down for it, and of course ask them and consent them. But the practice has gotten busier, and I think if you notice in my story, we're not as active as before, but still I still try to stay very active. But this year I'm trying actually to not let it own me. It can become a machine that you have to feed with new content every day. And I think a goal for me this year is not to let it own me, and become even more comfortable with whatever happens. If it's a great day that we get content, not. And you know what, if it's we're running late to the office and we got to start a morning huddle, then the intro will go by the wayside. I don't know. I love the outro usually. That's just a lot of fun. But walking back to the car.
This is good lighting, by the way. This is good lighting.
Thank you.
That you have right now.
Well, you set me up for it.
Yeah, for sure. I have no idea. I mean, it's hard to read the future. Yeah, I don't know. So I think just like you and I think we'll probably stick and move as things change, and then at some point probably stop doing it. That's the thing about all this, is that it's not going to be around forever. It's sort of like if you're a band in the 80s and MTV, you had your music videos on it, it quickly became something that wasn't that. And so I think every industry has evolution, and you either stick with it or you don't. So I want to move into something completely different, a topic that we are told not to talk about. There's two things you're not supposed to talk about, like at Thanksgiving, and that is politics or religion. And I'm not talking about politics, so we're going to talk about religion. Very clearly, and you asked me in the lead up to this, like, why are you asking that question, which I understand. And to be honest, I think it's just a part of who you are, and I want to get to know who you are better. I was fortunate to come to your house and see the wallpaper in person for a Sabbath dinner, and your wife, Naomi, cooked a wonderful dinner, so thank you to her. And I had a wonderful time. And I'll be honest, growing up in Arkansas, I did not know hardly any Jewish people whatsoever, certainly no Orthodox Jews where I'm at. And so I want to ask you about your Judaism. I want to tell me kind of like, what does that mean to you? And just tell me a little bit about how that impacts your practice.
So I grew up as Orthodox Jew, and I practiced that till today. For me, Judaism is kind of like the lens with which I see the entire world. So it's the infrastructure that provides the foundation for family values, for tradition, for our core values, for treating other people kindly. So for me, it comes from all of that, worldview. Los Angeles is the second largest city in the United States. And with that comes, correspondingly, it's the second largest Jewish population in the United States. We treat people from all faiths, from all different ways of diversity in our practice, and strive to make them all feel comfortable. But being that I am Orthodox Jewish and I live in a Jewish and Orthodox Jewish neighborhood, we do accommodate for any scheduling and things like that, the holidays, and we enjoy catering like any doctor would, catering to the needs of their own community. And that sometimes is the Orthodox Jewish community, and sometimes it's just the general community in general. In terms of like how it affects my practice specifically, we never work on Saturdays because we are Sabbath observant, or keep the Shabbat. And so from Friday night to Saturday night, from sundown, from Friday night to Saturday night, we never work at the office. And in addition, actually, my phone is off for those 24, 25 hours, which is probably the only respite that I get from
I was going to say.
And it's a wonderful thing. It's interesting that the restriction ends up being a tremendous freedom. Our meals on the Sabbath are longer. We get some great family time. And so we really take advantage of it. And I feel very fulfilled through it. Put some challenges. Keeping kosher is challenge more when we're traveling. I'd never speak on Saturday either. So it affects some of my speaking opportunities that I have to turn down. But it's very rewarding, and it provides like the infrastructure for our whole family and the worldview that I have. And I wouldn't have it any other way, and we really enjoy it.
Well, I will say I thoroughly enjoyed the Friday night, spending that time together with no phones on, no distractions, no TV, no radio. I mean, it was really cool. I was there to turn the oven off, which was very cool. So the Sabbath goy, as I was called. I think that was a term of endearment. But yeah, I will say, actually,
we didn't call you. Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. So we actually kind of tried to adopt that idea and do like kind of what we call like a 1920s night, sort of a night of rest, and where we turn off our devices, and we're sort of adapting that for this year. So it's one of my goals on that goal sheet I was talking about is to do like a Friday, like family night where you turn that stuff off, you detach from the devices, and you just focus on spending time with your loved ones. And so I think that's, something that God gave to the Israelites for a reason. And certainly when he created the world, that was one of the days was of rest. So I think it's important. And I think you see it show up in other, religions and certain other, philosophies of life, of how rest is important and recharging your batteries is important. So, and a lot of things we could say about that. I will say one of the interesting things about going to your area of Beverly Hills was, again, Jonesboro, Arkansas, there is a Jewish community, but not like that, as far as I understand. There's no kosher restaurants. So we went to a sushi restaurant, and I was yelping it and trying to find, it was like, Sushi Co, that sounds good. And we went, and it was kosher sushi. They almost kicked me out because I had an orange drink that I carried in there. Like, you gotta get out with that thing. So, I missed a couple of my favorite ingredients, but it was still good. Interesting stuff. So I think we can all learn a lot from each other by asking questions and that sort of thing. So it's an inspiration to me as a Christian to know people who are Orthodox Jews, who are Mormons, who are whatever else and everything in between. I think it's a beautiful thing to have those conversations. So thanks for answering some of that for me. I want to move on into a doctor submitted question. Jonathan Nicozisis, he was on fire with the questions. And I like these two questions he asked. His question was, what was the first job you ever had?
Okay, excellent. So the first job that I had it was very popular in Chicago to sign up to be a vendor at Wrigley Field, where the Chicago Cubs play. So that summer, I think, was like 1996 or 1999 when Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire were having like their home run, essentially a home run derby throughout the whole season.
1998.
1998. So I
was a huge McGwire fan. So there you go.
Were you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we watched every game, every home run. It was awesome. So
what's your connection with Mark McGwire?
Just Cardinals. Like if you're in Arkansas, there's no sports team, so it's all about the Cardinals. We went and watched some games that season, and that was as good as for me, almost like as good as sports ever was that summer.
Yeah.
And it was such a big deal. Like I remember being at volleyball games and people, like, if he'd hit a home run, they were all talking about it. This was obviously prior to the internet. And it would spread around. It was crazy. So like, he's at 62, he's at 63. I mean,
exactly.
It was
brought
wild,
baseball back from after the strike, right? That's what brought it back to just Showtime.
Needed profligate steroids. That's all it needed. So anyway, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
A little shot in the arm.
A little shot in the arm. Yeah, very nice. Lower hip, actually. But go ahead.
Exactly. Okay, very good. So me and a bunch of friends, it was common in our high school that we all tried out to be this. Now it's a union job, okay? So what happens is the youngest, you're the youngest employee, you get the least desired food item. So, which means on a hot summer day, I'd be selling hot chocolate. And then on those cold winter days, like in the beginning of the season in Chicago, which you can get freezing cold, I would get the ice water. So I didn't really make much money. I probably spent it, whatever money I made, I probably spent it like on KB toys, going to the mall and just blowing it up on, a remote control car or something like that. But we didn't. We had a great time, and it was during that season. So all I would do basically, because I had that stuff that wouldn't sell, I just go down to like the batter's box area, home plate, and whenever Sammy Sosa was up, we just go down and watch him, and that was very, very fun.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
And
KB
we would
toys.
ditch school, and we would ditch school to go and vend. So, but it was such a scam. You have to pay like a union fee, and then you have to wait online, and then they would like, you'd have to vote on the bylaws, and like they would just like sign your name for you, Chicago style. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah, I've heard that it's sort of like that in Chicago. That's amazing. What a great first job. So I want to get into this. When I've heard you speak, one of the things that really stands out to me is when you talk about how you ask for online reviews. I think there are, companies you can pay to kind of help make this happen. Yeah. When I think of online reviews, I think of you, and I think of Cole Johnson and how you both ask personally, and that's how you get it done. Yeah. And so I think there's a relationship that needs to be there and an ask that needs to be there to get a review. Yeah. But kind of walk me through your little list of how to get a review done. I think this is gold.
Awesome. So I'll often say the words, have you had a 5-star experience today? Which is not starting with an ask, but it's acknowledging that the patient did have that experience. And when you do that, it kind of just naturally flows into it. And we'll do this for anybody who's said a nice comment, anybody who's gotten any type of courtesy. If it's, we've, thrown in a retainer for them, or a courtesy off of the retainer, or even sometime of courtesy off of the fee. And we also get a lot of like broken retainers, like directly people find us on Yelp and things like that. And especially if they found us on Yelp, then we want to make sure we hit them up for that ask. We never pay anybody for reviews. I'll emphasize that. But I say, have you had a 5-star experience? And they say, yes, Dr. Prero, I have had a 5-star experience. And so we'll say, well, we'd love for you to share that with the world, and so people can know more about our office. And then they say, absolutely, I'd be happy to. And I say, great. Then I ask my 3 questions. Number 1, I say, have you written a Yelp review before? I don't say, do you have Yelp, or did you find us on Yelp? I say, have you written a review before? Because as you know, if they haven't written a review, they'll write it, and then it'll get back paged, and no one will see it. Now, even if you do get back paged, we'll screenshot it and throw it up on our social media, so the review still gets out there. But we want the review to stick so that our people looking for reviews will see them. So number 1, have you written a Yelp review before? And if they have, we'll make sure they're doing it from their app, from their mobile app. Recently, Yelp went through a huge cleanup, and we lost half of our reviews. I'm sure. Did you feel any of that there?
So Yelp is not a huge deal where I am.
Okay.
They cleaned up some of them. Yes. I think I had like 6 and it went down to 4, something like that. But it's just not, people just don't use it a ton. Yeah. And I should probably have more still, but go ahead. Yeah.
We had 100 and it went down to 41. They did a huge cleanup across the whole, all of my colleagues have felt that. And then we asked, if they haven't written a Yelp review before, now remember, like once they've signed on essentially that they're going to write a review for us, they've said they've had a 5-star experience, then we'll say, have you written a Yelp review before? Number 2, do you have a Gmail address? And if they do, which most people do, I'll do like Cole says, oh, let me show you something cool. So now I'll go to Google my name, I'll bring up my business. I'll say, hey, give me your phone. Let me show you something cool. I'll say, go to your Google and type in my name, Prero Orthodontics, bring up my Google listing, and then bring up my business directory and click the review area, and they can start writing straight from there. It'll ask them to sign in, so they'll sign in right in front of me. And I'll say, you know what, do me a favor, when you're down the block or you're at home, go ahead and fill this, press send when you're there. Then third, if they don't have a Gmail address, then we just hit them up on Facebook, and if not, we just let it ride.
Yeah, right. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think reviews are a huge part, not only of how people make buying decisions, but also of your rankings. And so it's, Google rankings are kind of a black box, but I think placement on the map pack is at least influenced to some degree by your rankings. Now, a whole nother conversation we won't get into is the people that have 397 five-star reviews. I start to wonder if that's helpful. I think people might see that and think, well, did you pay somebody in Bangladesh to give you those reviews or something like that? So that's a whole nother conversation. That's why I kind of like it being a real thing and a personal thing. I think it's self-limiting to a degree, but it also gets it done. So if I was going back and starting a practice, it would be a huge point of emphasis for me. As you have multiple practices, it's tough because now you have 3 separate Google places. But I love the couple things you say and the way in which you say it so that it doesn't disarm people. Like if you just start with, hey, will you give me a 5-star review? It comes across the wrong way. So you kind of subversively get to the answer, which I think is great. So
and then they answer the question. It's a yes or no. Have you had a 5-star experience? And if they have, then it rolls easily into it. And if you don't feel it, then you just let it go.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. All right, a real quick game. I want to start something. I don't know if you've been following the Bird Box Challenge where people have been blindfolding themselves. Yes. And I don't know if anyone's died yet, but Netflix has been asking them not to do that. Well, this is totally different, but this is going to be the hashtag Dovi Challenge. All right, so this is the Dovi Challenge, hashtag Dovi Challenge. Okay. And I want to see how
it's trending already or no?
It's already trending. It's already trending in Tibet. I want to see how fast people can do your Instagram story intro, and I want you to be the benchmark. All right. I'll be honest. I don't know that I could do the intro. I know it, but I don't think I could do it. So I don't want to do it myself. But here's what I want to do. Anyone out there who's a doctor, or as you maybe repost this to your following on Instagram, I want to see if anyone can do it faster. Maybe you'll put it on your story or something. But I have a stopwatch out, and I'm going to time how long it takes you to do your intro, and we'll see if anybody can beat you. How does that sound?
That sounds fair.
Look at that game face. Now, you've done it more than anyone, surely. So, all right, so I'm going to give you a 3, 2, 1, and on 1 you can start, okay?
Okay.
All right, so 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, my Instagram family. My name is Dovi. They call me Dr. Prero. I'm an orthodontist in Beverly Hills. I'm going to make your smile more beautiful than it already is. Come join us as we Instagram our way through Sunday.
All right, that was about, I'm going to call that 9.5 seconds.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure someone can beat me.
I don't know. You kind of added some emphasis in there, and so I think somebody could maybe do it quickly if they, so 9.5 seconds for the Dovi Challenge. If anyone can beat that later, post it on the comments here. Maybe send it over to Dovi on Instagram. We'll see if somebody, I think somebody can beat 9.5 seconds, I think.
Oh, I'm sure.
But we'll see. You do a very good job with that. All right, so I'm going to do a couple more questions, and then we're going to wrap up with our TDO top 5. And thanks for doing this. But real quick, what if anything, would you like to see change about orthodontics in the next 5 to 10 years?
I'd really love to see just people going to orthodontists for orthodontic treatment. And I'd love for the consumers to view the DIY companies like Big Purple and others as the same they view for like when they go to Walgreens or the pharmacy for the at-home like crown glue to replace their crown. What they perceive that as is they're gonna get a quick fix that'll get them over the weekend, but they know they're gonna call their dentist or their provider when they want something really done. So I think I'd love to see the population, the world in general, the consumers be educated about what DIY orthodontics is. I think if we can do that, then it'll raise awareness, but then allow and empower all those patients to come to the orthodontist to get that treatment done. So like it's kind of like an education mindset that they should be. I hope that they're educated enough to understand the role that the orthodontist plays.
Sure. Yeah. I think you're doing a part in that for sure. Speaking of Big Purple, we're using the term Big Purple. I was reminded of Dr. Youssef and how you helped raise money. He was the one that posted the little video, and it was taken down, but tell me real quickly, what did y'all raise for him there?
So with Dr. Youssef, he posted that video of a patient, and then through some interchange with another company, they negotiated that he would take down the video. He was allowed to repost it without mentioning any name. But through that entanglement, essentially, he was stuck with about $3,000 attorney's fees. And so I think he could afford it. Dr. Youssef, actually, Haney is one of my close friends. He's a fantastic orthodontist, and he was my co-resident. And so I told him, I said, whatever you decide. I was talking to probably a few times a day, morning and night, for sure, at least. And he was really distraught about it. But what I really wanted to do is I wanted to create a support system for him specifically, to know that he was not alone. And that's not just with me saying it. We had some other companies offer to pay, or some other doctors offer to give huge donations in order to help him defray those legal costs. But I thought it would be a really resounding support if we'd be able to raise all of it with essentially micro donations. So we set the limit at $10, which meant that we would need like 300 orthodontists to donate $10. And Kyle, like through your group, through Pearl's, and through Pragmatic, and with Glenn Krieger's group, we raised that money, $3,000, in less than 12 hours. It was just huge. We had, and I believe that if I needed to raise $30,000, or if we needed to raise $300,000, we would have been able to do it. To support our colleague, and to help him in any way that he saw fit to do so. But I thought it was probably one of my greatest accomplishments, I think, to show that support to Haney, and also to essentially rally the troops. And I think if we ever really needed to do so, I think we could really make a big impact if it was necessary to take it into our own hands. Yeah, and I'm really proud of everybody who supported.
Yeah. I think for all the bad things that Facebook groups have done for orthodontics, there are many good things. I think a lot of my best relationships in the orthodontic world, and when I go to orthodontic meetings, it feels like summer camp, is largely in part due to these groups. And so I'm grateful for them. And then you see something like that and you feel like, you know what, maybe it's not all bad. So more power to them. Yeah. So let's go ahead and segue into the end of all this. You've done awesome. Thank you for doing this. This is going to be the TDO top 5. And so each episode, this is just our 3rd, but we'll have these same 5 questions. This is sort of our lightning round. And so let's go with number 1. If you weren't an orthodontist, what would you be, Dovi?
I would be a plastic surgeon that would do cancer reconstruction and cosmetic procedures also.
Nice. In 2 to 3 words, in Beverly Hills. In 2 to 3 words, what is your favorite thing about being an orthodontist?
I would say the favorite thing of mine about being an orthodontist is making people feel special.
Nice. What's one thing you wish you had known sooner as a resident?
The one thing that I wish I'd known sooner is that I don't need every single patient that walks through my door. It's really, you know, some of that is like a cash flow thing. In the beginning, you think you need everybody, but just being comfortable with that, it's a sense of confidence, but also a little bit more experience. Now being, 4 years out, having a little bit more perspective on that would have been helpful. But I think it's a necessary way that you have to go through it.
Yeah, sure. I remember fighting so hard for patients that ended up being a huge thorn for 2.5 years. And it was like, what was I thinking? They're the Jubilee patients. When you finish them, it's cause for celebration for the entire office. And no comment further. Who is your biggest influence and why?
I would say my parents. My dad is he's someone who combines spiritual and worldly pursuits. He's a full-time rabbi. He's a full-time lawyer. He's a part-time rabbi on the weekends. And he's also a lead guitarist. He plays rhythm guitar for I can write that down for a little a little classic rock band with a Jewish twist on it. And he's someone who combines all of those effortlessly to really bring all of those into each part of what he does. Mom's a school teacher who embodies the ability to inspire kids. So I would say, like, on family side, those are my biggest influence. And then on the orthodontic side, I would say that Dr. Harry Doherty out in Sherman Oaks, who gave me my first job, I worked with him on Tuesdays for about a year and a half. And Tuesday was the D-Bond day also. It's pretty amazing to go to a D-Bond day and to have, like, we would do eight cases in the morning. And to have those 8 cases, the guy probably could have passed his boards on every single D-Bond day, which is just a credit to his pursuit of excellence. So I think that's really important. With all the social media stuff, like, it's great and it's important, but the most important thing is doing quality treatment. That's locally, I think. And then just in general, I think a guy by the name of Stu Frost, who we've mentioned before, who just shows beautiful cases and is a wonderful person and a giver. I think his mentorship has been immeasurable, and I look forward to learning from him more. If I could be a little bit like Stu, the world would be a better place.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit jealous of his new associate, but apparently you have to be a bodybuilder to be his associate. So I was out of the running long before that was an option. All right, so that was not a negative thing. The dude's in incredible shape. All right, last question. What do you want to be remembered by?
So I would say as follows. I would love to be remembered by helping any person in need and making a positive impact on my family and on the profession.
Yeah, it's great. Well, I think you're doing that, Dovi, and I want to thank you for coming on the show. I have an applause app. Come on, Kyle. There we go. Everyone can join me in thanking Dovi for doing this.
Well, I want to say before you finish up, I just want to say thank you to you for all that you do. I know a lot of our stuff a little bit overlaps, and you are such a gentleman in general. But in specific, thank you to the time that you spend away from the family doing what you can to help other doctors. And you have an amazing stage presence. You have a great way of just putting all these tasks together and getting stuff done. I admire that about you, and I appreciate what you're doing for our profession.
Thank you very much. I actually should then thank my wife for letting me do that.
Absolutely.
And for not leaving me. So thank you, Hannah, if you're still watching. And we have a new baby, so I took December off for that. But I love doing this. I love the community, and I love that it's helpful to people. And I love seeing comments saying that it starts your week off great. That's exactly why I want to do this. I want this to be a positive thing for people, a way to learn, and a way to learn a little bit more about people like you that we follow and that we know a little bit about, but it's nice to learn a little more. So, I want to encourage people. We talked, and sorry, I feel like this is like a sales pitch now. I don't really want it to be. I'm giving away Apple AirPods, just like the ones that we're wearing. If you'll go and invite 1 or 2 orthodontists to this group. The other thing you do is go to the podcast app, find the Digital Orthodontist Live, subscribe, and give me a 5-star rating if you feel you've had a 5-star experience. Please don't give me Please don't give me a 1-star. And then next week, we will be back. I'm going to do another show next week. This is going to be fun. I can't even wait. This is going to be with Dr. Chris Feldman. We're going to be live from New Orleans in the French Quarter, probably eating beignets. And we're both going to be wearing football jerseys because the Saints are going to be playing a playoff match that afternoon. So it's going to be the Saints versus the Eagles. That was decided today, and exactly. I cannot wait to be at that game cheering on Drew Brees and the gang. So hopefully you'll tune in to see us next Sunday, probably sometime in the morning, like 10 or 11. We'll let you know about it. But that's all we have. So from all of us here at the Digital Orthodontist Live, I'm Dr. Kyle Fagala signing off. Have a wonderful week. Thank you, Dovi. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Oh, is that your dance? This is good.
That's it.
That was it. That's all I got. You don't want to see mine. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you. Have a good week. Peace.
Bye-bye.